Good morning, as everybody gets their assigned seats. And Tim says I have to go sit with my wife, right? So welcome to Forum. It's nice to see you all this morning. There are a few of you I haven't seen before, so thank you for coming and joining us. Again, my little speech about, I can give you a little card if you want to get on our email list so that you get the weekly notices of what our programs are going to be. Every Wednesday from 8 to 9, except Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. Other than that, you're 8 to 9, you're fine as Wednesday mornings. This morning, please, as you can tell by looking at the wall, right? We're going to talk about the Ambulatory Care Center and a few other things. So, may I please introduce to you Leann Tobin, who I know has been here at Forum before, and you probably all know her if you've ever been around the hospital in the last how many years, 20? I start my 35th year there in January. I like to tell people I was 12 when I started, but most people don't believe that. So go for it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate being here. I'm going to take the first 10 minutes, and I was asked to just do an update on that beautiful big building that you see happening down by Hobby Lobby. And against popular belief, it is not a Chick-fil-A, and it is not a Costco. And if you've seen, it's changed colors over time. I don't know if any of you lived down there, but it was silver, and then it was purple, and then it was teal, then it was purple, then it was black. That's when we got the phone call of, you are really not leaving that black, are you? We're like, no, it's fireproofing or something. So it's fun to watch it grow, to see it morph into what it's going to be. So I'm going to take the first 10 minutes and tell you about that, and then I have the extreme pleasure of introducing Dr. Addison Wood, who is our new spine surgeon, and he is up and running and has 11 surgeries, I believe. That was yesterday. It may have changed since then. 11 surgeries already up and ready to go, and he and his team will be moving down to the Ambulatory Care Center as well when we're up and ready to go. Okay. So this is what it's the artist's rendition of what it's going to look like when it's done. It's 80,000 square feet, 4 stories. And this is what it really looks like. This is probably a week old, so it's probably changing. I believe they are paving and putting curb and gutter in this week, so a lot of the fencing has come down. So this is what it looks like from the front. This is Telluride stone, which they stacked one brick at a time. So it is amazing. If you haven't been down there, there's 100 workers down there at a time. It looks like a bunch of ants running all around, a lot of beeping, a lot of noise happening. A lot of local people helping us out. This project and being healthcare, it's pretty darn big, so a lot of our local subs were not able to help us with that, but some of the bigger contractors have hired many of our people here to work on this building. That's what the back looks like. This is the river walk that goes behind it, that the city's working with us on upgrading that, as that can go out, and that whole trail will be nicer and it'll keep moving. This is a beautiful view. Wouldn't you like to have an office there? You can look at those windows. That's looking over at Hobby Lobby towards Target. Okay, so the first floor, when you walk in, we will have medical imaging, which is a fancy word for x-ray. Our x-ray department, we now call it medical imaging, but we'll have mammography, CT scans, a permanent PET scanner. We currently have a mobile PET scanning unit at the hospital. If you see the trucks on 3rd Street when you drive by, one of them is a portable MRI, and one of them is a portable PET scan. So those will be permanent at the new facility, MRI and x-ray. The mammography area will be geared a little bit more towards women, a nicer area. We know that men get breast cancer as well. We'll typically do those mammograms at the hospital, as this is going to be a little bit geared toward women who, when we get to have our annual experience with the mammography machines, it'll be a little bit nicer with warm robes and just a little bit nicer environment. We'll also have a laboratory there. So if you need to have your blood drawn, instead of what you get to do now is come in, register in the hospital, wait in admissions, and then have your blood drawn, this will be much quicker. You'll be able to come in, get your blood drawn, and zip out. And then Mountain View Therapy, we have clinics. We have a clinic in Ridgeway, we have a clinic at the rec center, and we have clinics around the hospital. We will be adding one more physical therapy clinic. With Dr. Wood being here and Dr. Holmes, who is our pain management specialist, part of what they do before you get to have surgery or have to have surgery is a lot of physical therapy and strengthening and try to work with you in different ways before you end up with the surgery, or to enhance what they're doing and to help you recover. Here's your teal and your purple. I got harassed a little bit about it with keeping it purple because many of you know me, purple's my favorite color, but then they had to change it to something else. Okay, second floor, Montrose Regional Health Alpine Women's Center, which many of you know is Dr. Gillum and Dr. Hanley, but we have Dr. Fenton, Dr. Colleen, Dr. Whistler, many OBGYNs. They're going to take their whole office, which is on 3rd Street, and move it over to the Ambulatory Care Center. So they will be on the second floor. The house that they're in was a clinic that Dr. Hanley and Dr. Gillum had, and they have just expanded and blown up in a good way, so they need more space. Western Slope Orthopedics will also have space over there on the second floor, and they will be seeing patients in both locations, where they currently are, and they will be seeing patients here as well. And then our spine and pain clinic with Dr. Holmes, who many of you met. He came probably 2-3 months ago, and then Dr. Wood, the spine surgeon, will be in the spine and pain clinic. They'll see patients on the second floor, and I'll show you they're also going to have some space on the 4th floor. Okay, on the 3rd floor, Cedar Point Health is leasing that 20,000 square feet. That whole 3rd floor, they're consolidating their offices. This one's on Nevada, and this one's on 5th Street, and they're combining all their medical offices together. They will still have their PT clinic, which is over by Office Depot, and their urgent care. They will keep that. But they're combining their medical practices and making their world a little bit more efficient so they have everybody in the same place. And then the 4th floor, again, as it all evolves, well, let me back up, sorry. Both of these, our target opening date is the end of January. And right now we are 8 days ahead of schedule. So, I know. Well, I got to tell you, it was 2 weeks. Now we're to 8 days. There is an HVAC unit or something that is made in Mexico that to be big enough for our building. They don't build them in the States. They build them in Mexico. And with COVID, the warehouse or whatever, manufacturing plant was closed down to do something else. So now they're up and going, but they're behind schedule. So it's fascinating that you can build a building this size and the HVAC unit is what's slowing us down. So they're doing some rearranging. But anyway, we're still 8 days ahead of schedule as of yesterday. So both the first floor and the second floor, the goal is the end of January. 3rd floor, same. I believe the hospital is going to move into this building. We're going to move the cardiology clinic. Where Dr. Lee, Dr. Weathers, Dr. Wilkins. So they'll move over to the bottom floor of where internal med currently is. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the 5th Street building. They have sold it to a group out of Tyride. So we're going to see what happens with that building. Okay, so the 4th floor, again, as we evolve and Dr. Wood and Dr. Holmes continue to get busier and busier, they will be on the 4th floor, half of the 4th floor. The other half of the 4th floor will be the Ambulatory Surgery Center, which will be MRHs. We'll have 2 OR suites and 2 procedure rooms. Now these are surgeries that are done during the day. We call them same-day surgery. We call them on outpatient surgery. If you have to spend the night, or we think you might have to spend the night, you will still have it done at the hospital. But if we know that for instance, any of you have had a colonoscopy, that might be the age group in here. You've had a colonoscopy, most of you go home afterwards, right? They get you up, they get you eating, get you moving, and then you go home. So those kind of procedures, some of the stuff that Dr. Wood does, some of the stuff that the other surgeons do that are not as involved, and there isn't the option or the opportunity for you to spend the night, you'll have it done here at the ACC. Okay. That was pretty quick, 10 minutes. I am now, unless anybody has one quick question on the ACC? Okay, I do encourage you at the Montrose website, montrosehealth.com. We have a whole page that continually has, it's got a live cam. If you're not out and driving around, you can watch if you're bored, you can watch the construction from the comfort of your own home. Yes, sir, Jim.
Now, Leann, what's going to happen with Black Canyon Surgical Center?
We still are 51% owner in Black Canyon, and it will continue to go as it is.
Will we have an escalator or second line?
No, we're not going to have an escalator, but we'll have elevators. Yes, ma'am.
Will there be a grand opening so that you can?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We're kind of bummed because January, February is kind of a cool time to have an open house, but yes, we will, 100%. Rick?
I have heard an awful lot about something that's going on north of town.
Yep.
Can you talk about that?
Nope. I cannot. No, I can tell you the impact will hurt the hospital. Well, we are working through some different stuff with that, but we have no control, so we're just moving forward and supporting ours and doing the best we can. We have an incredible medical staff who is very, very supportive of Montrose Regional Health. Okay,
In the meantime,
In the
our
meantime.
dear queen of the day has to leave for personal reasons. So
Thank you.
very much.
You're welcome. I'm going to let Dr. Addison Wood come up and speak. We are thrilled to have Dr. Wood. We had a spine surgeon here, Dr. Dwyer. Many of you know him, and he was here, and he's still here, but he did spine surgery and then chose not to do that as part of his practice, and so we are blessed to have Dr. Wood join us. You will love him. He's a very, very kind, gentle man, and he's going to tell you all about himself. So. Here he is.
The real clapping should be for the family and my redheaded daughter. That's a real prize to look at there. But yeah, I am Addison Wood. If you come and see me, then we'll get to know each other. And I really look forward to serving this community. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about me and why I'm here.
They tell me you need to hold your mic a little closer.
Oh, okay.
to your mouth.
There we go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Yeah. I usually don't need one, so. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I made it here, and why I chose Montrose to start my life with my family here. And so basically I was born in Oklahoma and raised in Texas for 33 years. I did all of my medical school training there. Did all of my undergrad training in North Texas as well. So I went to UNT in Denton, Texas. I did my master's and my PhD and my medical degree in Fort Worth, Texas. I was lucky enough to stay in Fort Worth, Texas for my Orthopedic Surgery Residency. And then I chose to go up to Calgary in Alberta, Canada for my fellowship, which ties into, I don't know if you can see here, but my wife and kids, they're all dual citizens of Canada and the US. And so that played a role in going up there, but also it was a complex spine fellowship that I got the full breadth of experience that I wanted, and did cutting edge surgery up there. So very happy with that experience. I learned what cold was coming from Texas. I actually lived about a mile from the hospital, and I walked to work every day for the full year I was there. And if you're unaware, it's close to 6 months of winter, and it's about -20 on average for 3 or 4 months out of that. So I had a really good parka, but I do like cold weather, and I'm looking forward to having 4 seasons here rather than in Texas, which is get hot and slightly cold. So that plays a role in sort of finding Colorado as my landing pad. But what really sold it actually is my brother-in-law. He is in Grand Junction, and so we looked at Grand Junction, and I was like, I don't think that's really for me. And then I looked on the map and found Montrose because it's a hub to all these outdoor activities that my family and I love to do. And we had already off the bat decided we did not want to live in big cities. So I did not look in DFW, where I was from, or Denver, the Front Range, anything like that. We wanted to raise our kids in a small community, and I wanted to have a nice, really, close relationship with my patients and people in my community. That was something that I had missed for portions of growing up, as well as my wife. Fort Worth is close to 1 million people now. Calgary is 1.6 million. And so we spent a lot of time in those major cities. And we soon realized that is not where we wanted to be in the long term. We did live on a horse farm in Texas, a town of 2,000 people, for 2 years during the residency. And that was a really nice retreat from, basically I drive into the city an hour each way and come back out to our land and just enjoy the horses and free space. And so that was really what drove us to a community like Montrose. So yeah, that's a bit about me. A bit about how my philosophy of spine treatment works and being a physician. What's important to me is that I want to really present something that's different for you, something that you may have seen a long time ago from your physicians, which is spending time with you. I mean, I spend literally an hour with every new patient. I block out that time. That means I spend 1 hour with you in the room, explaining everything. I think that the spine is a very important topic for people because it's so debilitating when someone has a spine problem. Additionally, spine surgery can be quite a big deal. And so I think it's very important for people to understand that. And additionally, I say that I don't kiss on the first date, meaning that I won't operate on someone after seeing them once. You have to see me twice. We have to develop a relationship. You have to understand what's going on. And I think that since being here and seeing the patients I have these past few weeks, people really appreciate that. And I took some lessons to heart from one of my attendings or my mentors in my training, who really taught me that is what patients really appreciate. And if I were a patient myself, that is what I would appreciate, is knowing my condition, knowing my choices, and always having sort of the ball in the patient's court for their choice of what they'd like to do. So yeah, that's really important to me, and I hope that some of you get to experience that. I hope not all of you have spine problems. That would be bad. But when you do see me, I think that is something that you will appreciate, is that I'm doing things differently than modern medicine, and that is I'm not here to just get you in the door and get you out. I enjoy spending the time with my patients, and you will get that. Yeah, any questions up there? Yeah.
What are some of the typical surgeries that you find yourself doing?
I could ask interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do questions when the microphone is turned on. So back to our usual format. I'll bring you the mic. You ask your question.
Okay, one more time. What are some of the typical surgeries that you find yourself doing?
Yeah, they usually fall into one of two categories in general, which is a fusion or a decompression of one type or another for a fusion, or one type or another for a decompression. I would say the most common surgeries that I will do most likely are minimally invasive decompressions of the lumbar spine and discectomies. So if you have a herniated disc, if you have spinal stenosis, then I use about an 18 millimeter tube to go down and drill away the bone to give your nerves more space. And that's probably the most common. And I've done many of those. I already, and it's hard for me to actually count how many times I've done that. So that will definitely be the most common. But that's probably on the lower end of the spectrum as far as complexity of cases that I do. That's the easy, consistent, great case for me. It gives great outcomes too. And our literature shows that decompressions give great outcomes to patients. They really enjoy those. But that's not something that solves everyone's problems, right? There's fusions as well. And so that involves fusing two segments of the spine together. It's usually only indicated whenever there's instability already in the spine. And that could be using these spacers that are put in the front of the spine, or screws and rods that are put in the back, or both. And so those will be fairly common as well. I also do motion preserving surgery, so lumbar disc replacement and cervical disc replacement. I do those in very specific populations that our literature has shown gets a good benefit from them, because fusion surgeries tend to be the gold standard because their results are so consistent and good on a widespread basis, whereas the motion preserving surgery, you have to have certain things on your structural findings of your spine, and you have to have certain health characteristics as well in order for you to have a good chance of a successful outcome, which is obviously the most important thing, is that you do the right surgery for the right reasons on the right person, and all those things have to align.
Second.
Dr. Wood, welcome to Montrose. I think we've needed a spine surgeon here for a long time. I've had to go up to St. Mary's and down to Durango at Mercy Hospital. And fortunately, I had Dr. Youssef, who is an amazing surgeon, who worked with me down there. In doing my visitation back up after surgery, St. Mary's and the folks down in Durango at Mercy Hospital, they would tell me consistently that we are very fortunate in Montrose to have some really fine rehabilitation therapy facilities. And I'd like to give a shout out to Mountain View and InMotion Therapy for that, because they specifically mentioned that. And I think as a surgeon, you're concerned about outcomes, and I think that we have probably two of the best in the state as far as places to get therapy. So.
Is there a question on that, Jeff?
Oh, what do you think about that?
I'll roll with it. That's a good question. No comments.
Yeah, maybe I'll just touch on one of the goals that I set out to achieve here that relates to that. And something that came up in the earliest discussions with the hospital whenever we were creating this job, right? And that was to capture all of the patients in Montrose who are currently leaving our community to get healthcare elsewhere. That sounds almost trivial when it comes out of my mouth, but it has a really deep impact on patients, whether it's elective spine patients, whether it's trauma patients. It doesn't matter. If you get surgery elsewhere and you are stuck somewhere, your family is still here, right? And that, especially in a trauma situation, plays a big role in someone's outcome and ability to see their family to recover with, your loved ones near you. And so my goal is to prove to Montrose that we provide really high quality care here. And I'm going to hold the hospital to that standard and everyone around me to that. And I'm going to prove it to you that we mean business and we're going to do the right things for you guys. So.
Okay.
Dr. Wood, do you also do scoliosis surgery?
I do, yes. So we're in the process of getting a robot for robotic guided spine surgery as well. which will help with those scoliosis surgeries. I actually got my first scoliosis patient yesterday, who has severe scoliosis. It's so bad that she's having trouble breathing because her spine is so crooked, it's compressing her thorax and impeding her ability to breathe. And it's cases like that where you really can make a huge impact on someone's life. If you're not able to walk a block, that's a pretty debilitating disease process. So yes, I do. And luckily I chose the right training program for that, both in Fort Worth and in Calgary, where I got a full spectrum of experience from the smallest surgery, decompression with the tube that's 18 millimeters, to a gigantic, very complex, risky scoliosis surgery. So.
Dr. Wood, what was your PhD, and then how did you decide to go to medical school?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in undergrad, interesting enough, I was not interested in science initially. I wanted to be a spy for the CIA. And so I had an international politics degree initially when I was a freshman. And I tried to learn Russian because I thought, I think I could make it as a Russian spy or something. Yeah, I was young and dumb. But then I took a science course, which switched me over to, I switched to biochemistry, which is a pretty big change. And then I started doing organic chemistry research, and I really liked the mental challenge, but with basic science bench-top research, it's really boring. And you don't get to feel a direct impact of what you do. When you're sitting there for hours pipetting and putting things in a machine by yourself, it's not that enjoyable or rewarding. And so I thought about what I could do with this knowledge that I've gained, where I could actually have something that's rewarding to me, and also to see the effects of what I do directly. And that was medicine. And so I was still interested in doing research, so I did a dual degree program in medical school after I did my master's. And my PhD is in structural anatomy, and so I studied actually the kinematics of total knee replacements and ankle fixation. So that's the study of motion of different types of knee replacements, as well as fixation constructs of the ankle for trauma, basically.
Mr. Town. Hi, beside you.
I'm curious about therapy. Is there such thing as pre-surgical therapy? I mean, do you see that, is there any remediation for patients before they have to have surgery? Do you see much of that, or is that successful or not successful?
It is successful in the correct patient population. So, say someone has radiating pain from their neck into their arm. I've seen many times therapy improves that to a point where they no longer either need injections or surgery, or they're able to come down on some of the medications that they're on. That's not the case in most severe cases, but it is certainly a helpful tool in that process. So there is that part. And then there's a different patient population that would benefit from therapy preoperatively, solely to optimize how well they're going to tolerate and come out of surgery. Scoliosis being one of those, to try and strengthen some muscles that basically haven't been used in a long time. And to, a big part of therapy, a lot of people think of therapy as like almost working out, where you get stronger and more flexible. Well, an even bigger portion of that, especially with spine patients, is actually just learning their new normal and learning how to do things in a new way that is easier on them, causes less pain, and is safer. And so that's a really key part of therapy as well.
So is there a possibility then for some patients that they might be seeing both you and Dr. Holmes?
Yes, actually, that's a great point. I am truly blessed to have Dr. Holmes as a partner. He is a wonderful colleague. He is, we work very closely together. My desk is over here, I'm one wall over, and we frequently ask each other, hey, what would you do for this patient, right? Or hey, should I get this patient to you quicker, right? We ask each other for advice, but the bigger thing is that we are both aligned in our goals of creating a center where you don't have to think about who you're going to see, but you come to the center and we identify the best way to treat you as a whole, right? Instead of just seeing a pain management doctor or a surgeon separately, our goal is to eventually transition where everything is fully integrated, where you see a pain management doctor, you see a surgeon, and you see actually a psychologist or psychiatrist is very helpful with chronic pain and spine, as well as therapy. And so we're in that process now of really bringing and integrating our services together, so that when you come to our center, you're not just there to see one person for one visit. I think that really provides high quality care. And that's sort of the next level that we're working on. Mind you, I've only been here for a month, so we have a lot of things that we're developing and making the processes more clear and straightforward for everyone. Yeah.
Is there a nutrition component built into any of this for recovery or even just lifestyle?
What you will frequently see, a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, but a passion of mine is for bone health, and that also carries over to nutrition. And so we will have, say you come to me and we both decide that, surgery might be a good thing for you, and you decide that you want to move forward with it. Then I'll optimize your bone health, meaning if you haven't had a bone density scan, if you haven't been on bone medications that you need, or if you need the next level of medications, I will get those for you. But you will also get protein drinks before surgery and after. And a lot of people, take multivitamins, but there are even more people who do not. And in those standard protein shakes, it's basically a portion of that is a multivitamin, and a portion of that is protein. And the American diet has shifted to fast food, what's easy and cheap, rather than what's good for you. And so simply doing that is a little bit of a shotgun approach that I take to try and improve nutrition, because I want your wound to heal. I want your bones to heal. I don't want your bones to break. And so, yes, I look at the full you to take care of your spine.
So you piqued my interest. Protein drinks, then the highest possible grams of protein?
Well, it depends. So if you go to, there are some really cheap protein drinks that are more affordable that still have basically a multivitamin within them, and it's up to around 20 grams of protein. And so those are the ones that I tend to try and get in patients' hands because they're cheaper, they do the job just as well as the expensive ones. The expensive ones maybe tend to taste a little better. But there are some patients who may not tolerate the taste of that, or they may have kidney disease or some other restrictions on how much protein intake they can have.
So should you also be then aware of the calorie count for protein?
I tend not to around the protein drink calorie count. Around the time of surgery, at least immediately after in the wound healing process. I'd rather you have more calories than fewer.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned multivitamins numerous times, and when I read online, some say they make a difference, some say they don't. It appears you're saying they do. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, and so I would say that the reason why I talk about multivitamins and being within the protein shake is because inevitably, if we tested everyone in this room for their vitamin levels, someone's going to be low on something. Many of you would be. And so this is a sort of shotgun approach to make sure those are covered, because most vitamins, or many, recover quickly by just simply a protein shake or a multivitamin for a week or two even before surgery. And being low on some of those vitamins can impede wound healing. And so this is an easy way to cover my bases. To, instead of testing everyone on 12 different vitamin levels, I just give you a protein shake that has it in it.
Hey, Jim.
Has to be a question.
You're getting used to me saying that every time Jim's here.
I learned my lesson, I got spanked last time. How many support staff do you need, and what difficulties do you have in recruiting and retaining? I know the retention part is because you're so new, but how are you addressing that, or do you have problems with that?
Yes, it is difficult. Actually, it's a topic that's somewhat new to medicine, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is COVID played such a large impact on it that we are still feeling the impact of COVID in many ways, especially staffing shortages. And so those occurred in Texas, those occurred in Canada, and they occurred here. And they have not stopped in all three of the locations that I worked at about 6 different hospitals that I've worked at in the past 6 years. And it is due to COVID, and a lot of that is travel nursing and competition between wages in different locations. It's almost like job economics, and where can you get that wage, and people are more willing to travel for work in healthcare now. And so it makes it much more difficult to keep people. And so, yes, it is something that the hospitals struggled with, but it's also something that all hospitals have struggled with. And we work to combat that by having a great place to work that makes you happy, but additionally we have to be competitive with our wages. And that's what we're working on as well. And so a number of support staff that we need is growing, basically. That's the short answer. If it was just me by myself, I could probably work with 2 front office people, but it's Dr. Holmes and I, and then it's we'll have 3 PAs helping by the end of the year. And so that's basically 5 people running at least 5 rooms, and our current front office of 3 people we're looking to expand on, because we have to.
So how does that work for trained staff in the OR? Are you able to get that highly trained for what you need for technicians wise?
We are lucky enough at Montrose in the OR that the staff there has stayed pretty consistent from what I've been told. I've been here a month, but I will not have any issues in the OR with staff, and I've been told that almost everyone that I see every Wednesday morning that I meet with them, including this morning before I got here, I meet with the OR staff for training sessions, and they are a seasoned staff that have really stayed here in Montrose at the hospital. I don't know how we did that, but I'm gonna take it. And a little bit to touch on training, since this is a new spine program, to reassure some of you. I am very strict on training, and so I've been training with the floor nurses, the ICU nurses, the physical therapists, the OTs on a weekly basis since I've been here for multiple days each week for them. And then additionally, the OR every morning at 7 a.m. for an hour, I train with the OR staff and on new equipment. Additionally, for every new surgery that we do at Montrose, I do perform a mock surgery of it the week before. So if we have never done an ECDF surgery at the hospital, then the week before, that exact staff that will be in that surgery with me and the exact equipment will be in the operating room the week before, and we go through a pretend surgery together to make sure everyone is on the same page. And so that will be happening for the next several months to provide reassurance to them, and I guess now to you guys as well, that we're really being thorough, and like I said, we're holding ourselves to a pretty high standard here.
Rick, I'm on my way. I'm going to add a sidebar comment though, because I get to be boss. I think we're really fortunate in Montrose that Colorado Mesa University Montrose has such an excellent nursing program. Over the years, we've almost become a thing of people saying, oh, CMU Montrose, so that's the nursing school. That's the way it's known around the state. We have an excellent program here, all the way from CNAs through the whole gambit of everything you can think of in nursing. And as this building expands, now, because those of you who've been attending here, all these classrooms back here now are nursing classrooms. All the ones upstairs in the older building are all nursing classrooms and labs. And that's with a relationship with the hospital. It's not just CMU doing it, it's Montrose Regional Health working with CMU to do these programs. And I hope that helps. We have the pictures, some of the nurses who come out of our program who now work back at Montrose Regional Health. Sorry,
Put that in the form of a question, please.
I said, I get to be boss.
What do you find of the child care situation here, and how has it impacted your ability to hire and retain?
I don't have a great answer for the ability to hire and retain. That'd probably be a better question for Jared, who's getting married this weekend, or otherwise he would be here. But I can tell you my experiences with it moving to town and what my experience with it was in Texas and in Canada. So, interestingly, we really struggled to get childcare in Calgary, which, as you know, is a socialist society, which is surprising because that is one of their key tenets, right? We were only able to get childcare for my daughter 1 day a week, and not my son at all. So, being up there and working 80 to 100 hours a week, my wife was left with most of the duty with no break. And so we really struggled with that. And so we had that experience there. And coming here, we're like, we have to get on top of this childcare thing. So we actually, I think it was the week I signed my contract here that everything was official, we put money down ahead of time in order to get our kids into childcare 3 times a week for both of them. And I think that money we put down just was, out to the air. It was gone. They didn't really go towards anything. We just had to put it down to save the spots, which is less than ideal probably. But I can tell you that having childcare made a huge impact on my wife's happiness, as well as our marital happiness, and the ability to really get ourselves sorted here. And so it's been a game changer being able to have that childcare. So I don't think it should be undervalued how big of an impact having good childcare is. It really, truly is awesome.
How would you compare the social medicine that they have in Canada versus what we have here?
Oh yes, that is an excellent.
Just make it quick.
That's tough. Yeah, I love this topic because, you know, I come from Texas. I'm a Texan, 33 years, right? Fairly conservative place to be. And I went up to Canada and practiced in their universal health care, if you want to even call it that. It has its problems. The US system has its problems. I will say that comparing the two would take a while. I could probably give you a 1-hour lecture on it. But in simplicity's sake, I will say that the emergency care in Canada and the US are virtually the same. And this is where a lot of misconceptions between the two systems comes about. If you are in a car accident, you have urgent need for brain surgery, spine surgery, orthopedic care, general surgery on the belly. Doesn't matter, the care up there and down here, virtually the same. If you want elective care in Canada, it will take at least a month to get an MRI, and that's if your surgeon is calling the radiologist to get you bumped up in line. So longer than that. And then the wait lists for elective surgeries up there are quite long, right? You get world-class surgery when you get it up there. It's just when you get it, right? And so their system limits the throughput of surgery via not enough OR space, not enough surgeons, and not enough staff, basically. And that's how they limit how many elective surgeries they do. And people wait over a year for a spine surgery, or a total knee replacement, or total hip, that's even longer, over a year. And so that's the biggest difference that I saw. But there are certainly advantages of their system as well.
And the cost, for example.
Yes, yeah. And interesting enough, you know, I never had out-of-pocket expenses that were over like $200 before I went up there. But my son needed a molded head brace, and I had to pay out of pocket for that. So it was the first time in my life that I ever had to pay a substantial amount of money for my health care, was when I went to Canada. And so there are holes in that system where you still must pay. I will say that in general, they are much cheaper for the health care. But that comes with advantages and disadvantages. So it's I would not say it's easy to say if one system is better than the other, right? You just have to look at, well, how do I want to take my hit?
Okay, one last question. Tim, I'm on my way.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, Doctor, we've all seen seen and heard a lot about people who have fall injuries and break bones, and a lot of them do that, like osteoporosis. Is there any cure for that kind of an illness through surgical techniques?
The best way to treat that is by preventative medicine. This kind of plays back to the Canadian thing a little bit, but the best way to prevent that is to get bone density scans if you're a female at the age of 50, okay? Or if you have a fragility type fracture, then you are automatically diagnosed with osteoporosis. You don't even need a bone density scan, basically. And so that's a hip fracture, a distal radius or wrist fracture, or compression fractures in the spine. We had decent medications at treating osteoporosis in the past 20 years. In the past 5 years, we have pretty amazing osteoporotic medications. They are exceptionally expensive and difficult to get. but they are worth it. And so that is the best way to treat poor bone quality is through those medications.
Is there a certain age that you get where it's too late to do anything about osteoporosis?
It takes approximately 6 months to rehabilitate someone's bone density to a level in which I'm even able to perform surgery on them if they need it. Now, to get that back to normal is possible for some, and others is not. I wouldn't say there's an age range or anything like that. I've seen terrible bone quality in a 50-year-old who smokes and had a poor diet and didn't work out and didn't so on and so forth. And then I've seen someone who's 75 and has bone that's like steel, right? Everyone is different and everyone's lived their lives differently.
Thank you very much. Please help me